Hi, loves. Welcome to a new episode of the AW Confidential podcast. In 2025, 85% of workers reported having symptoms of burnout and exhaustion due to work-related stress. 91% were 18 to 24 years old. 94% were 25 to 34 years old. Almost half, about 47%, took time off for mental health reasons, but many felt unable to share the real reason due to the stigma and fear of judgment. This is no longer a workplace issue. It's a wake-up call for society. Today, we are flipping the script. I'm not just your host. I will be your guest. I invited a licensed therapist and friend to sit down with me and peel back the layers. We're talking about healing, therapy, and doing the work. As hard as it is, this is not going to be easy for me, doing the work that's necessary. I have been in therapy. I have been through some things, and I've learned that we can turn pain into power, but it's a process. This is about being real and reminding you that we are not broken. We're building, and you don't have to do it alone. I'm doing the work with you. Veronica Olivares is a licensed therapist and friend, as I mentioned. She joins me today to help me share the journey of therapy, truth, and transformation. This is a piece of my story. Hi, Veronica.
Hi, love.
How are you?
I'm very well.
Thank you for being here today.
So excited for this.
I am a little nervous, but I'm also excited. So you know me pretty well on a personal level, and I thought you'd be the ideal person to ask me the tough questions.
I'm honored.
So I will give you the floor and allow you to work your magic.
Okay. So my first question to introduce us into this is asking you, before you became a host and author of Voice for Women, you were obviously figuring life out, just like all of us are.
Still am.
Who would you say you are before your intentional healing journey began?
All right, we don't have that much time. So I'll start with, I was a bit of a hot mess. Still am, depending on the day. I was a person who didn't understand what boundaries were, didn't feel like she was enough. I felt really broken.
Okay.
I felt really broken.
What helped you to assert boundaries? Like, I know that's a really hard thing for a lot of people. What helped you to really do that for yourself?
I think therapy saved me. I have to be honest. You know, I'm an advocate of therapy, and it saved me in so many ways. I learned what my triggers were. I learned about why, so sometimes we do things and, we think, oh, that's just the way I am. But I feel like there's a reason why we are the way we are. It's not just like, oh, this is you and this is always going to be you. It's not. And I think that therapy helped me kind of put the pieces in place and help me realize that I'm not broken. I'm just need a little work. That's all.
Absolutely. Was there a catalyst or something that kind of guided you to be like, okay, this is the time for me to seek therapy? Because we don't always know, like, when is the right time to do that.
Okay. The first time I seek therapy, my daughter was 5 years old. And I went through a very difficult divorce, as everyone knows. I had to battle with depression. And I remember I was in bed a lot on weekends. And one weekend she stayed with me and she walked into the room and everything was, all the curtains were closed and it was about noon. She usually stayed with her father on weekends, but that particular weekend she was with me. And she came into the room. She says, "Mommy, I'm really hungry. And can you please open the windows? Can you let some light in?" And it's in the book. And it was the moment that I knew, like, and I still get emotional because, you know,
Yeah.
it's like you get that vision. And I knew I had to get help.
So that is a message for folks out there. The babies be knowing.
They're always watching.
They be knowing. Okay.
100%.
And so, yeah, so this brings us to a good point of like, it requires some level of bravery, right? Because you're doing something really difficult and very vulnerable. What scared you the most to start seeking that kind of help and getting that support?
So she called it a cave, and I felt like I was in this black hole. Like it's like a vortex, and you just keep you spiral, and it got really dark. It got really dark, and I just felt like either I get help or it's good. The vortex will swallow me up. So I don't know if anyone out there has felt that darkness, and I think we all have light and dark, right? But when you feel like that darkness is impacting your quality of life or it's alienating you in any way from your loved ones, then you know it's time.
And in that darkness, did you feel like there was a spark of something that was like, this is the right direction for me to go in?
She's my spark.
Yeah.
She's my light.
I love that. What surprised you about therapy?
Oh, it felt so good. I want to say it's better than an orgasm, but it's pretty close. It was so I felt so free because I felt like I could tell my therapist anything. She wouldn't judge me.
Nice.
She wouldn't make me feel ashamed. And it just felt like literally boulders, kind of dropping the boulders off my shoulders that I had lived with for 30 years.
So I'm hearing like very relieving, like there was a big relief, like a sigh of relief almost to be like, oh, finally.
Yeah. I mean, we carry around all that weight. And it felt like you know what it felt like? I felt seen and heard. And I felt like I am good enough. And it's okay to not be okay. And my therapist did that for me. And when someone makes you feel that way, I remember when I had already gone through maybe a couple of years of therapy and I had a breakthrough. I remember coming out of my therapist's office and I texted her and I said, I can finally see in color.
Wow.
I could see the blue skies. I could see the flowers. I could see in color. Because up to that point, everything just looked gray.
Wow. I love that explanation. Yeah. I think that therapy is such a person-centered work that the relationship with the therapist is so important. And I'm curious, you found someone that you just kind of resonated with, you felt comfortable with. Like, what was that process like for you finding her? Was it easy? Was it difficult?
Interestingly, it was easy the first time around. It's funny because sometimes I went into therapy thinking I'm going to have a therapist. She's going to be with me forever. That's going to be it. And I think we've kind of discussed that.
Yeah.
I received the referral through a friend.
Okay.
It ended up working out. She understood my culture. She had done a lot of work with my culture, and that helped a lot. So she knew where I was coming from. She knew the mindset. She understood that. Now, as I've gone through different phases of my life, I've had 2 additional therapists.
Okay.
And I think one of the most important things to understand is that a therapist, for me, it's a relationship. And I feel like some people say, well, I don't want to go to therapy because I don't want to just lay there and spill my guts out. And all the therapist does is just sit there and listen. I don't think that's true. I think you have to find the right match. There should be a give and take. The therapist should offer some tools to help me, some resources to help me, and ask me the hard questions. So it's not just laying on a couch the way we see in Hollywood and just, spilling your guts out. It's an exchange. It's an exchange of energy. It's an exchange of information. So I think that's one important thing. And I think every therapist has a different perspective. So I feel that's important. Just like you do research to find a mechanic, to find a doctor, this is to find a partner. This is no different.
Love that. You're talking about perspective, and I think that is important to understand. People have different views of things. How was your perspective shifted once you started doing the work in your relationships? Did it change your perspective on relationships, on work, and just like connection with family, etc.? Did you feel like that shifted some of the way that you viewed things?
100%. I didn't know what boundaries were. I've been known to be a bit of a doormat sometimes. Wow. I learned to say no. I learned to say, no, this is not okay for you to treat me this way. I learned that not everyone has to like me. I have to like me, and I have to feel comfortable with myself. So I think it did shift a lot of relationships, and whether it's in the workplace or personal, 100%, I feel like now I'm comfortable with me, and whatever doesn't feel good to me, I'm not doing it. So I think for me, the biggest thing was boundaries, because I did have a huge issue with that.
You had mentioned earlier about having like a breakthrough. So what was the lesson? I know that you're mentioning boundaries. Was there a specific breakthrough that happened for you that was like, oh, this completely, is changing my life in a big way?
That's a really hard question. Yes. I've spoken about it openly, but I experienced molestation when I was a young girl, and my boundaries were crossed very early on. I didn't know what those were. So I think coping with that trauma and being honest about what happened and how it impacted me, it completely changed my life. I was no longer willing to just sweep it under the rug. I wanted to confront it head on, and it changed everything.
Wow. I'm sorry to hear that, first of all, but like, you are so brave to share this. Such a thing that is so not talked about, and I think is not talked about enough in our communities. So like, I really commend you for speaking out and being a voice for that, and for women that maybe have not been able to have that breakthrough yet, and that they're open to the idea of getting help or support around that. So thank you so much for that. I really appreciate that.
Thank you for saying that. I'm hoping sharing my story will encourage other men and women,
Yes. Yes.
to cope, to deal.
Yes.
There is no shame. You're a victim in the whole situation. So hopefully sharing one story will help someone else.
I love that. If you could tell the version of you that was suffering in silence now, what would you say?
Two things. The first one is, you are good enough. And that's something I make sure that I remember. I am enough. I am enough. And it's one of my affirmations. And I think the second one would be, you're going to be okay. That's simple. You're going to be okay.
Those words are like tremendous for someone to hear. And it's like the simplest thing, but it moves mountains.
Yeah.
For sure. What would you say a healed woman looks like? And how are you becoming her? Hey. I love it.
A healed woman. I'm still healing. Doesn't stop.
That part.
The inner work doesn't stop. So I'm still healing. But I do believe that the healed woman is more confident, is okay with not being okay sometimes. And the healed woman loves who she is on her good days and on her bad days, because I still have those.
Yeah, we all do. We all know that. People tend to think that healing is like a straight line, like it's like a step-by-step process. What do you say about that?
It's absolutely not true. It's so not true.
Yeah.
There are starts and stops. I have stopped therapy, and I've started again, and I continue to do that.
Yep.
So I there's no such thing as a straight line. Life is chaos.
Yeah.
So there's no straight line to anything. There's no finite answer like in math. It just, that's not life. It's not real. So, when you go to the doctor and, they give you a pill and it heals you or, or it makes you better, that's not the way this works. It's a process.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a process.
And I do think people go to therapy for different reasons. Like sometimes there's a specific thing that's happening in your life, like a life transition. And then you don't have to necessarily be in crisis or having a huge problem to necessarily go to therapy. Some people just need that kind of relationship in their life, a support, accountability. And so we're in different phases of our life needing different things. And so I think that's okay too.
It's funny because I think we've talked about this, but we've talked about having, an athlete has a team of people, right?
Yes.
So an athlete has, the person who deals with their physical health. They have like a whole team. I think it should be the same way for us.
Yes.
We have the primary doctor, we have the dentist, we have, all these doctors. We should also have a therapist.
Oh, yeah.
Your mental health is health.
Yeah. 100%.
Literally. Because if you're not mentally balanced, it doesn't matter how healthy you are. It doesn't matter how many times you go to the gym every week. You're not completely healthy. You're not whole.
Yeah.
So I absolutely would say have a therapist in your tribe, on your team.
Yes. I call it the healthcare squad.
I love that.
The healthcare squad. Get your
I love that. We should hashtag that one.
Get your healthcare squad up. Okay? Hire a therapist in there. It's okay. You won't regret it. I like that idea. I've always thought that health is like a very holistic process, and that we should have a really strong support team around that. So 100%, I agree with that. We've been very conditioned, especially in our communities, in our culture, to be strong. What does strength mean to you now, kind of after doing the work of therapy?
Strength is vulnerability.
Ooh, I like that. I like that.
It's okay to, have days where you don't feel your best and you don't feel okay. It's not a weakness. So I would say strength is vulnerability.
Yeah. I think it takes incredible strength to be vulnerable. Incredible courage, too. Now, let's say you have one thing that you'd want to share with folks about, wanting to get therapy but are kind of on the fence about it.
Do it!
Don't be scared, or do it scared.
I love that. Do it scared.
Do it scared.
Do it scared. I love that. That's it. I don't think you should sacrifice or downplay. I grew up Dominican, and it's like, no, you'll be fine. You'll be fine. No, if you feel that you need to speak to someone, if you feel even stress at work, are you kidding me? Like, they should actually have a on-site therapist.
Correct.
But no, I feel if in any way you feel like you need help, get it. Yeah. And you don't even have to share it with anyone. I choose to share my journey because I'm hoping it can help one other person. But you don't even need to share it. You go get the therapy and you don't need to tell anyone if that's what you choose. But don't do it because, of what you've learned or what people have told you. Just go and have your own experience and see how it can help you.
I always say, like, at the very least, I think we are under so much stress, just like at a baseline, that we could just get like stress management skills, just help yourself manage stress, because stress is a real killer, and it hurts a lot of people, and they don't really
It's
realize
toxic.
it. Yeah.
It's toxic for your body.
Yeah.
So
So at a minimum, stress management.
because trauma is real, and it impacts every aspect of your life, whether you realize it or not.
Okay. And how is healthy and healed Yvette different from the woman those years ago that was asking for help?
How is she different? I think just embracing all parts of me, good and bad. And when I say bad, I just mean we're all a little broken in some way.
Quote unquote bad.
Right.
No bad parts.
I like that. So I think she's just more comfortable with who she is. And that's gold. Because we're always trying to be someone else, right?
Yeah.
Not me. And I think that I'm pretty awesome. And the people that stick around know me.
Yes. And as your friend and someone who loves you so much, I'm so proud of you. Because
Thanks.
it's not easy. I know. I'm not trying to start the waterworks, but I have to put that out there. So proud of you.
Thank you.
Amazing. And it's not easy work.
No, it's not. And it never stops either.
Never stops. No, because life ain't stopping. So can't stop, won't stop.
Well, thank you so much for being here today, for helping me share my journey.
This is awesome.
One question for you, of course.
Yes.
For anyone who may be watching or listening and is terrified of therapy, or maybe feels guilt or shame or any of those negative feelings, what truth do you want to leave them with today that may help encourage or empower in some way?
That is a really good question. I think I will say two things. One, sometimes other avenues can lead us in the right direction. So even if someone is open to a mentor, a teacher, a guide, a coach, sometimes I've offered classes and coursework where people are like, oh, I may be more interested in therapy now that I'm learning about this stuff and I'm interested. So I think there are so many avenues that it doesn't have to initially start with therapy and possibly lead to that at some point, right? If the person thinks that it's the right time for them or they're ready for it. I think that there are so many avenues for healing for us. And I think therapy is one amazing one. And obviously, I'm going to vouch for it. But I do have noticed that folks have also landed in therapy after kind of going through other avenues first. So maybe if you're needing support, be open to other ways of receiving that and going in that direction. But that is kind of like the first thing I want to say, because sometimes we don't even recognize that not being afraid of therapy or saying that it's not going to be helpful is really a protective thing. It could be like a defense mechanism where we don't feel safe enough. And so that could be like what we say, but sometimes we just need to kind of give ourselves a variety of options to see if we can get led into that place more safely. And then two, I would say that anytime that we have any self-doubt, any anxiety, worry, fears, I think that it's so important and not understood enough that just our own curiosity and compassion for that part of ourselves can shift things so much for us if we just kind of look at it and say, you know, what is it that you're needing right now? What is happening here? Is there something that I need to know about this part of you? And I think that having those kinds of questions and inquiries really helps someone shift into, oh, wow, like maybe there is something here that I'm needing. Maybe I need to do more research. Maybe I need to talk to like a trusted person that can help me figure out resources. I think just looking at ourselves and tending to the parts of us that are worried and scared, it's like tending to a child. And giving yourself that love is like so powerful and can do a lot for us.
And I think giving yourself grace.
100%.
I think we're really quick to give others grace. They can, do whatever. We're like, no, it's fine.
Yes.
But we need to give ourselves grace.
100%. 100%. Lean in with curiosity, and you will be very surprised at what shifts for you.
Oh, thank you for being here.
Yes.
Can you please share with our community how they can learn more about you and the work you're doing?
So I'm actually on all platforms as Heal with Vero. And you can find me there. I provide coaching and somatic therapy right now. I'm going to be opening some support groups online to help women just connect with their bodies, get more comfortable, more grounded in themselves. I think it's so necessary right now in this time that's really in an upheaval in a lot of ways energetically. So I wanted to share that. So you can find me in all those spaces.
Well, thank you for being here. Thank you for being
So honored.
a dear friend. You know, I love you.
Yes, I love you too.
And thank you, loves, for joining us on this special episode of the AW Confidential podcast. I would say, if you are on the fence about getting help, do it. Do it scared, as Veronica said.
Yeah.
I'll talk to you soon.